to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Kabumas Loomis. Here on the Blog Chronicles podcast, we talk with world-renowned bloggers living their dreams and mid-tier bloggers chasing their dreams. What we do is dive deep into the guest's personal story and or talk about their expertise and find out some things that they know that can help bloggers like you be more successful. Before we begin, let me point out that the Blog Chronicles is sponsored by BuildYourOwnBlog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. Visit BuildYourOwnBlog.net to start your new blog today. All right, so who is going to be our guest today? My guest today is a blogger with an incredible personal story. You will be riveted as she shares how she went from office manager, and I should add miserable office manager, to full-time blogger. Only 6 years ago, my guest today was working in the corporate world and hating every minute of it. She wanted to spend more time with her kids and had unfulfilled dreams. One big dream was to become a writer. So she continued to live a life of quiet desperation until her world fell apart and her dying father said something to her that possibly saved her from drowning in unfulfilled dreams. Today, she's living the writer life, she's self-employed, and she's calling her own shots, and spending a lot of time with her daughters, traveling, and she just loves what she's doing now. What was it her dad whispered to her on his deathbed that jump-started her writing career? Let's find that out and a lot more about blogger Daisy Luther. Hi, Daisy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Matt. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, when somebody asks you what you do for a living, how do you answer that question?
Well, that's a tricky one. I am an emergency preparedness and survival blogger. And so if I say, I'm the official blogger of the apocalypse, people really tend to look at me funny. So
Right.
I usually just say, I do stuff online.
It's much easier that way, right?
It really is.
So let's take a look at what you're doing here. You have how many websites?
Oh my gosh. I think 5 or 6.
Oh, wow. 5 or 6. Now,
Yes.
okay, I have taken a look at the Organic Prepper, and then you have Prepper's Daily News.
Yes, which is really just mostly a traffic vehicle for the Organic Prepper.
Okay.
And then I have the lostartofblogging.com, which is just blogging about blogging. I'm one of those.
Uh-huh.
And then I have an online store called Prepper's Market. I have a store called Cheapskate's Guide to the Galaxy.
Wow.
And I'm working on one for digital publishing.
Awesome, man. You're a really one busy gal. Go ahead.
Oh, well, most of these things, one feeds into the other. So really what I'm trying to create is a network so that if interest falls back in one of the topics, I've still got the others.
Yeah, that's a really smart thing to do, and we'll talk a little more about that. Now, do you also have daisyluther.com?
I do. It's not active right now. It is going to soon be my publishing company website.
Oh, okay. Because I had heard in a previous interview that you did that you kind of see that site as where you can kind of just give your opinions on everything, or...
Yes, and that's what I had started it for. But then I was really splitting my efforts way too much between the Organic Prepper and that website.
Mm-hmm.
So I just moved most of that content over to the Organic Prepper, and they can just deal with my opinion. If they don't like it, they can skip to the next article.
Always a good attitude to have in the blogging world. Gotta have a thick skin, right?
Oh, you really do. People are very rude and insulting online. They say things they'd never in a million years say to your face. Well, at least I don't think they would.
Right.
And you really have to develop an attitude where it just rolls right off of you, or you're not going to last very long.
Exactly. Like a water off a duck's back. Excuse me.
Exactly.
Something like that. Anyway, so let's this first part of the show. What I do is I like to get into the guest's personal story, and then after that, in the second half, we'll kind of find out what you know and talk a little bit about some things that you can teach us. As as new bloggers, a lot of new bloggers listen to this, and but actually all levels of bloggers do. But there's quite a few that are new to blogging. So let's go into your story a little bit because it's very inspiring. Now, I'm curious though. First of all, how did you get interested in the prepper niche? And that will probably tie into your story.
Well, basically abject poverty. When my first child was born, my husband lost his job when she was just a couple of months old. We had absolutely no money coming in at all. We had a whole bunch of bagels in our freezer that I'd gotten on sale and some peanut butter and a few things of broccoli coming up in the garden. And that was literally all we had, and we had no money to buy more. So that was terrifying to, have this brand new baby you're responsible for and absolutely no food in the house. The money we had was saved for like formula and diapers and that type of thing. So that made a huge impression on me, and I never wanted to be in that situation again. And something that a lot of people misunderstand about the survival niche is that the most likely disaster that's going to happen to you is losing a stream of income or getting horribly into debt. It's money problems, and that can happen to any of us at any time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So how does the prepper niche, so to speak, save you or bail you out?
Well, if you are involved in that, then you've got a pretty decent stockpile of things like food and toilet paper, paper towels, like all of your basic necessities you tend to have on hand, at least a few months worth. So later in life, when I got laid off, at this point I was a single parent with two children. When I got laid off, I didn't have to dip into any of the small amount of money that I had left to buy groceries or paper towels or things like that. I was able to use it all to keep my mortgage paid and, keep my car payment up and pay insurance. And that was really important as a single parent. That was the best insurance policy I could have had.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of go back a little bit to you were at one time a office manager, right?
Actually, no, I managed an automotive shop.
Oh,
So
okay.
like 16 mechanics and me. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and it's my understanding that you loved that job, but then you grew to despise it over time.
I did. I really did because it seemed so trivial, the things people would complain about. I'll never forget. I think this was sort of a breaking point for me. There was a man who had a brand new Chrysler 300C, and his auto up and auto down buttons didn't work on his car, and he had to hold the button down to make the window go up. So he began demanding a rental car. And I said, well, I can't give you a rental car. It's still drivable. He said, no, it's not. Are you telling me I have to hold that button all the way up and down? I was like, look, buddy, I got crank windows. So you're still one up on me. So I got in trouble for that. And they gave him a rental car and kissed his booty. And I thought, I cannot tolerate people like this anymore. I just don't want to do it. And that was when I really started thinking about getting out of it. But I was in debt. My dad was sick. Oh, there's so much going on that I just could not leave my job at that point in time. But that's when the dream began.
Yeah, you mentioned your dad being sick, and it's my understanding that he said something to you that was quite impactful and profound, and
He did, and it was really hurtful at the time. He was literally on his deathbed. This was the day before he passed away. He said, girl, what are you going to do with your life? You're 40 years old. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to be a writer. I've told you that all my life. And he said, no, you're not. He said, you're not going to be a writer because writers write, and all you've ever done is talk about writing. And man, that hurt my feelings. I was so upset that he thought that about me. And at the time, of course, we had funerals to deal with and all sorts of other stuff. I did not take action immediately, but that thought never left my mind. So later, when I was kind of given the option to take a payout or get laid off permanently somewhere down the road, I had those words kind of echoing in my brain. And so I took the payoff and left my job and decided I have enough money if I'm super cheap to survive for 1 year, and I'm just going to go for it. And that's what I did.
as painful as that moment was with your dad, I think that was actually pretty ingenious on his part.
It was. It was because he knew I didn't want to let him down. We were very, very close. And so I know he would be pleased that his reverse psychology, his
Yeah.
last bit of reverse psychology and dad manipulation worked really well.
I think it's great. Personally, I think it's good to sometimes challenge our kids a little bit. But anyway, don't want to digress too much there. So Daisy, as this lifestyle went on and you started to get into it, one of the benefits I think was you were able to homeschool your daughter.
Yes. Yes. My youngest daughter really never thrived in the public school system. My oldest daughter did great. She won all sorts of scholarships. My youngest daughter hated every second of it. And she's a very creative girl. And I am very independent. And I felt like the school system was squelching the things that made her special. So I was delighted that I was able to be home with her and let her quit public school and do homeschool. And we kind of did more of an unschool than following a curriculum after the first year. So that was really great.
So it's enabled you to have more time to do that. And
Not only that, her last semester of quote high school, we took a road trip for 3 months and drove around the perimeter of the United States, visited all sorts of historical places, did geography, did budgeting, did a lot of things they don't do in
wow.
public school that really, really got her off to a great start for semi-adult life. She graduated at 16 because she just flew through everything when she was able to do it at her own pace. And, that road trip really says it all about being self-employed, having a blog, doing that for a living. Because I was able to just pick up and go for 3 months and educate my kid hands-on. She can navigate with a paper map, which a lot of kids these days can't do. She navigated the entire trip, planned the budget for the whole trip, handled all the money for the trip, and we were gone for 3 months. It was fantastic.
Man, that sounds like an awesome trip. Wow.
Oh, we had so much fun.
You guys will never forget that.
Definitely not.
And the blogging lifestyle helped you do that.
Absolutely. We couldn't have done it any other way.
Right. So, okay, Daisy. So now here we are in 2018, and your income is all online based.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. If the internet were to crash for whatever reason, can you honestly say that you feel prepared to survive a scenario like that?
Oh, I'd be screwed if I had to still make the kind of money that I have to make now.
Right, right.
Like if it was some systemic breakdown of society, like the kinds of things I write about, then I'd be fine because at that point currency has no value. But since most of these things currency does have a value, I'd be in huge trouble. My entire business is online.
You're saying like if it was just the power grid, but everything
Right.
else was functioning. Right.
Right. Exactly.
That makes a little more sense. Um, Let me ask you this. How long have you been blogging?
I guess about 5.5, 6 years.
Okay. So how has blogging changed your life?
Well, first of all, it has made me a much better writer because the more often you write, the faster you get and the more efficient you get, and really the better you get.
Mhm.
So, there's that. I'm a better writer than I was before. I can sit down, I can knock out a 50,000 word book in a week or less because I write all the time. I write about 100,000 words a week.
Wow.
So there's that. Then there's the fact that I have so much independence now. I can live anywhere. We can be gypsies and move all over the place as my daughter pursues her higher education. It's just wonderful to have that freedom. And that's the biggie. Plus, I really don't like dealing with people face to face in public situations anymore. I have lost all tolerance for that kind of thing. So it would be really a sad day if I had to go back into the workforce.
Right. You and I both are probably hopeless at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the writing part of this whole thing because we're going to talk a little bit about writing here in a few minutes. And now actually it is time to transition into the What You Know segment. This is where we find out what we can learn from you about blogging and solopreneurship. So let's dive into the weeds and the details of what you're doing. First of all, are you using WordPress?
Yes.
Okay.
I recommend it for pretty much everybody because that's where all the plugins are.
Right. Yeah. So you must be a fan of WordPress.
I am. I mean, it's easy to use. I'm not an extremely technical person.
Hmm.
So between WordPress and Thrive Themes, with all of their short codes that are already there,
Hmm.
I'm able to do pretty much whatever I want.
Yeah. So do you find that there's a good amount of custom themes for the prepper niche, or?
The prepper niche isn't that different from any other niche. I mean, it's all information, no matter what niche you're in. So I just use a very basic magazine theme for my main website, and that has been perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I would say you use a magazine theme. I was noticing the Prepper Daily News, I think it's called.
Yeah, that one is called Drudge. And so it's kind
Yeah.
of a knockoff of Drudge Report. And you can just buy it, and it's super easy to use. You just put in your headline, you put in your link, and hit enter. And that's basically it.
Oh wow. Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. You have some really great content on the organicprepper.com. You've got really nice headlines. You're good at taking current news story and providing a prepper angle to the story. Well written posts. Now I'm just curious, Daisy, are you doing all the content creation yourself?
I was up until January of this year, and I was speaking to Sean Kay, who has Casual Marketer website, and he said, you're killing yourself. You've got to stop. If you want to expand to 2 or 3 articles a day, which I've been boosting my content lately, he said, there's no way you can do that by yourself. So I have brought on some freelance writers who are helping me out with the additional content. But I
Okay.
usually post at least 1 article a day myself.
Okay. Yeah, it looks really great. Now, do you use an editorial calendar?
No, I've tried that a few times and I just go off on these tangents. I use a lot of current events on my website. I mean, I do have some evergreen content, but I found current events bring people back every single day because they want to know what my take on it is. They want to know how that event might affect them personally.
Yeah.
So with something like that, you can't really use an editorial calendar because you never know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. If I have an idea, I put it in WordPress immediately in draft if I've got the headline or even just a link that inspires me. And then I just put a few words as a headline and I save it in draft. And so then if there's nothing going on and I know that I need to get some content up there, I just go through my drafts and I can usually find something.
Oh, that's very good. So, yeah, I was going to ask you how you come up with your content ideas. So it sounds like it's very newsworthy based, but yet you also do some evergreen topics as well.
Yes, exactly. And that just goes right along with what I said earlier about writing. If you write every day and you're constantly on the lookout for new subjects, everything becomes a subject. It's sort of like,
Hmm.
okay, email marketers like Ben Settle,
Hmm.
who just uses the things that happen every day or things he sees online. He uses those as his topics. I do the same kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, he's good at that, and he also occasionally will use, I think, like a movie or some
Yes.
character, you know. Um, okay, great. So for those who want to improve their writing skills, what do you recommend they do to get better? Like, are you completely self-taught, or do you recommend any
Completely
courses?
self-taught.
Okay.
Completely self-taught. Um, you know, Start watching your feedback when you post on your blog. If you don't have Google Analytics, you're really not serious about it. So you need to hook up Google Analytics. And then when you do write, see what gets the most hits in your niche. See what people are responding to. See what people are commenting on. And that's going to really help you. That feedback will help you be a better writer. Some of it's really mean, but you have to kind of kind of drill down to the point that they're making. If they say you ramble a lot, you need to look at it. Do I really ramble a lot? Because you might.
Hmm.
If they say that, you aren't putting in enough proof about what you're saying, then maybe you need to add more links to support what you're saying. And, putting in links that go to other websites, just have them open in a new tab. And that's a great way to increase your SEO.
Yeah, I always have them open in a new tab.
And a lot of people are afraid to put links to other websites, but it will improve your SEO much faster than just intralinking to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You want outbound and inbound. Speaking of SEO, how important is that to you?
Well, I'm horrible at it.
Mhm.
Most of mine has just been pure luck. I have picked up a few things from plugins like, let's see, Social Warfare and
Mhm.
Yoast. Both of those have helped me a lot with
Mhm.
SEO, kind of helped me keep on target and drill down to a keyword. But honestly, it's better to write for people than for Google. And, just think about your keyword. Make sure the keyword is something that people might actually search. Like today, my keyword was Sweden because of some things going on there. And just make sure you have that word in your headline and in your first paragraph, and then a couple more times in your golden. That's really the extent of SEO that I do.
Interesting. So your keyword recently was Sweden. Is there a global audience for the Prepper Niche?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have readers from all over the world.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think people tend to think of stereotype. It's Bubba in America or something.
Yeah, crazy Americans in their bunkers.
You're right, right. But people in Europe, India, you find them to be all over the world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the state of the world right now. We have got so many issues going on, and there's economic problems everywhere. I mean, look at Venezuela. And
Hmm.
because I write a lot about economic problems and personal financial crises, I have readers, from Venezuela who are like, I don't even know where to get food. And I can't help them much, unfortunately, because their situation is so dire. They're way past anything that I could suggest, but they still do come to the website looking for answers.
All right, so let's talk a minute about economics. So, one of the things that you do is help people survive,
Mhm.
and you have your businesses all online. Can you share with us a little bit about how you're monetized?
Yeah, absolutely. It is just like everything else. You've got to have multiple streams of income, multiple ways people get to your blog. Um, so most of the ways that I monetize, I mean, really, let me see. I have a list. Hang on a second. It just makes it easier when I keep lists of these things.
Mhm.
So I monetize in a lot of different ways. The first thing I do is I monetize my traffic because some of my readers really don't have any money. They're not going to be buying my products. So I monetize my traffic. I do that using ad networks. If you're new, you can start off with something like Google AdSense. When you have more traffic, you can do something like AdThrive or one of the other big ad networks. I really love AdThrive. They
Now,
pay well, they're attentive, they're great.
now is AdThrive something that somebody can start right off the bat, or do you need a certain amount of
Only
traffic?
no, you've got to have 100,000 hits a month.
Okay.
So you got to be up there a little bit to get to that one, but there are other intermediate networks. So the thing I like about that is all you got to do is produce the content and get people there. You don't have to sell anything to them. So that is really, really good.
Hmm.
Another simple way to monetize is affiliate programs. And lots of folks knock the Amazon horrible 4% commission, but I have made tons of money over the years from them.
Hmm.
Now, I made a whole lot more before they changed their commission terms, and that's another nod to why diversification is so important because my income from them dropped by 45% overnight. And I was powerless to do anything.
Hmm.
So, you've always got to have more than one stream of income. But it's really easy to monetize with an affiliate link for things like reviews, how-tos that require specific supplies, checklist topics that the reader might want to learn more about after reading your article, because you can send them to books. And you don't have to limit the affiliate programs just to Amazon. Lots of other people in your niche will probably have affiliate products. And the good thing about that is not only are you supporting them, you're networking just by recommending their products. So they'll probably scratch your back at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are the things that everybody knows about. There are other things like banner ads, and that is something that I'm really starting to add. I hadn't done it for the longest time because it's a pain, but I recently hired someone to handle that for me, so I don't have to talk to advertisers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have an audience, it's a lot easier because then you can teach classes. If you know something they want to learn, classes are a great way to monetize. You can write books.
Mm-hmm.
You can put them on Kindle. You can put them in physical format using CreateSpace on Amazon. I've done very well with that. Recently, I've begun doing PDFs right from my website, and that's been very lucrative. Physical products. Now, depending what your niche is, that could be a good seller. I like drop shipping because then I don't have to hold inventory or make a trip to the post office every day. Holding inventory can be very risky when you're just starting out because you can dump a lot of money and have a whole lot of doohickeys that no one wants to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I really recommend drop shipping. I have a Shopify store where I promote products that are drop shipped. It's on a separate domain from my main site, and it has been pretty good. Subscription products are always good. You would love that ongoing income. So things like paid e-zines, boxes of physical products, physical newsletters, personal coaching, there's all sorts of subscription products that you can do. Sponsored content. I send out sponsored emails. I make a couple thousand a month doing sponsored emails. They are really spammy a lot of times. So I have just been really upfront and told my email list, look, I take these sponsored emails because it helps me provide you with information for free. It costs you nothing. All you got to do is just once a week or so, you're going to get this email in your inbox. If you don't like it, scroll on. And, most people are pretty cool with it. Some people get mad, but they're probably not really the readers and customers I want anyway.
Right.
Consultations is another possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really do a whole lot of that in the survival niche. I do in the blogging niche, but it's really not very easy to do consultations in my niche because people are extremely private to the point of paranoia sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is something that I don't do very often. Now, one other thing I want to address is this big myth that everything has to be really expensive or you're not, quote, valuing yourself. That's not true. Nearly all of my products that I sell are $5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that sounds like this rock bottom, horrifically low, I should be embarrassed to put it on my website amount. But I do really well in increments of $5. I sell hundreds of PDFs in a weekend at $5 a piece. And, these are things that don't cost me anything. Once I've got them loaded up and they're ready to go, it costs me absolutely nothing. So I sell loads and loads and loads of things for $5. And the reason I came up with this number is, like I said, it's frugality and preparedness. People don't have or won't spend a whole lot of money. But if you look at how Walmart, for example, does things, I just looked at my email list one day, and I've got about 20,000 on an email list, 30 to 50,000 in social media. And I thought, how do I get $1 from every single one of these people every month? Now, I'm not quite there getting a dollar a month from each of those people. However, I do have a lot of people that give me $5 a month for various products that I offer. And let me tell you, that really adds up. I probably do $4,000 or $5,000 a month in $5 increments.
Wow, fantastic. Just curious, do you offer a return guarantee on those $5 products or?
No one has ever asked for one. I don't have one on there. If they ask for one, I'd probably give it back because it's really not worth the hassle for $5. But nobody has ever asked for their money back.
Okay, very good. So have you gotten into membership site yet?
I have a subscription product called Cheapskate's Guide to the Galaxy, and it is a $5 a month subscription, and it's just frugality tips that I send out every month.
Fantastic. Very good. And by the way, I'm going to have links in the show notes to all of these things that Daisy's talking about today. All right. That was really good information, Daisy. Thanks for sharing that with us. Let me ask you this. From your experience, what would you say are the 3 most important skills a blogger needs to be successful?
Well, I can think of 2 right off the top of my head. First is patience. You're not going to make money and be on a beach in Bali in the first 2 weeks that you start your website. It took me a year to make $1,000 in a month on my website. It was my side gig. I had other work, and it took me a year of busting my tail and putting out content all the time. So don't start this thinking you're going to make thousands of dollars a month in the first few months. You're not. Unless you are like so much better at this than I am, you're just not. So patience is number 1. Number 2 is consistency. I post almost every single day. I email almost every single day. I have 3 email lists that I send emails to every single day. People know that they can basically set their watch by the fact that I am going to have something new for them to read every single day. And so they come to my website just because they know there's going to be something new there. It also has the added benefits. As I mentioned before, you become a better, faster writer by writing frequently. So consistency is key. If you just like post once a week on random days here and there, people never know when you're going to have something up there, and they're very unlikely to keep going back. You want to be their habit. You want to be their crack. So you want to be consistent. I don't know what number 3 is. I'm sorry. I just got 2.
Okay. Well, let me ask you about personal branding. How important is that to you?
It's pretty important, but there's a caveat. Initially, this was extremely personality-based, and I mean, it still is to some extent. But if at some point I want to sell the websites and go retire to Hawaii, which I kind of do, it can't just be the Daisy Show on there. So that's why I began adding other points of view with other writers, and I began focusing more on the brand The Organic Prepper than the brand My Name. So it's incredibly important. I use the same fonts across all of my websites. I use the same basic tone in all of my articles. I mean, I'm the same person all the way across the internet. And I think that has been really helpful. People can see an image on Pinterest and they know it's mine because of the fonts and the way the pictures look. So, you can really easily develop that. I don't have a logo that I paid a lot of money for. I use, I was told it's called a word mark. I just use the same fonts all the time, and it's very recognizable.
That's really good stuff. Yeah, that reminds me, I think it was Chris Brogan who said that if he could do it over again, he would not have named his website chrisbrogan.com.
That was the other reason that I stopped using the Daisy Luther website as much, because I can't sell that. That's me. And that is just something that is part and parcel with me. So I'm going to move my publishing stuff onto there because I'm unlikely to sell that, because that's just something that's recurring income.
Excellent. So if someone came to you and said, I will pay you $5,000 to help me start a new blog, what would you do?
Well, I would talk to them about what their blog is going to be about. I find it's really helpful if you have a specific niche and then kind of a sub-niche that identifies this as yours. So I have, the prepping and survival, and then I kind of have 2 sub-niches. I've got the current events, a very newsy style with commentary, and then I've got the organic part, which is leading a healthy life, very natural products for skincare and home and things like that. So, and good nutrition. And so I just kind of tied all of that together under one thing. If you just have one thing, you are really going to run out of things to write about. I've got a really nice, vast array of things to write about. I've got 3 overwhelming topics and then little subcategories onto that. So to make whatever niche you're in, you have to make your website special so that they don't go to the other websites. if you have a cake website, what about your cake website is different? Do you just make wedding cakes? Do you make cakes from organic ingredients? Do you make cakes with no sugar and no gluten and no joy? You've got to kind of go with something that makes your website special. And you need to reflect that in the name. If your website name is something that people would search, I have people searching all the time for organic prepping food. So they end up on my website. And this has really been helpful to me. So you want something that is searchable, not some weird random name that people are going to go, what the heck is that all about? Because they don't care enough to come look. If you haven't made an impression on them already, they don't care enough to come and see what the heck it's all about.
Really, really great advice, Daisy. Thanks. Now it's time for the fun final 3, where I throw out 3 random questions and you give your honest answer. Don't worry, this is fun. The Fun Final 3 is sponsored by buildyourownblog.net. To get your blog started and to find tons of free blogging tips, come visit buildyourownblog.net, where you can personally contact me for help. All right, are you ready, Daisy?
I'm ready.
Okay. Number 1, is an EMP attack likely or just a bunch of noise?
It is possible, but probably not likely.
Okay. Well, why do you say that?
Okay, an EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. It can occur if some enemy detonates a nuke up in the atmosphere. So there's not going to be any fallout or anything like that, but it would fry the electronics. The thing is, they only suspect it would fry the electronics. There's no proof because they can't do an experiment like that and actually fry the electronics. One of my good friends, Dr. Arthur T. Bradley, works at NASA. He believes it's a possibility, but we just don't know what would be fried by it. So if you're prepared for a power outage and you're prepared to grow food and do things like that, you're going to be just fine if an EMP occurs.
Very interesting. Yeah, I have my own little personal theory about this. It's kind of from more of a conspiratorial perspective. Basically,
tell me.
Yeah, well, basically, when it comes to the elites or whoever, is pulling the strings, my theory is that will never happen because they don't want people off the grid, or they don't want people to not be able to be tracked.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's just my take on it.
I think it's unlikely, but it's close enough to the realm of possibility that you should at least know a little bit about it.
I agree. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, great. So let's go to number 2. All right, when it comes to canning food, which I know you do, and you have a book about canning, and your Amazon author page is in the show notes, which food can last the longest sealed in a jar?
Well, I have to say, just based on what the USDA says, because otherwise I'll get in trouble, that canned food only lasts for 1 year. That's the amount of time that the USDA says that it is safe. Now, meat and things like that, because they're fattier, it breaks down faster. Mm-hmm. I know people who have eaten jelly that has been canned for 22 years, and they have lived to tell me about it. Things that contain meat, things that have been pressure canned are likely to not last quite as long.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it before, but I've noticed, like, when we talk about canning and then we see jars usually. Mm-hmm. Is there, who can actually can if you don't have a factory? You know what I mean?
Right. Nothing that's going to last for that long, because these jars are just sealed with like a little rubber gasket. And I certainly would not trust that for 10 years for roast beef. I just wouldn't. And, I love canning. I do it all the time. It's nice to be able to just pop open a jar and I've got homemade soup right there. But I don't let it sit there. Like, I judge my pantry by what my family will eat within a year. And when that date is coming up, because I mark all the dates on the top, then we dive into the canned food a little bit more.
Very interesting. Good to know. Yeah, my grandparents were into canning there for a while. All right, let's go to number 3. Who is someone in the prepper community that you admire?
Max Slavo, he has shtfplan.com. That website is banging. I mean, he does so well. He has so many advertisers. I have no idea how he gets them all. He has tons of traffic. I mean, tons. He's got probably triple the traffic I have. And mine's, not really too shabby. I get like 10,000 to 20,000 hits a day, and he gets way more than that. So I want to be him when I grow up. He was my first mentor. I used to work for him.
All right. Yeah, I'll be sure to put a link to Max in the show notes. I'm not familiar with him.
It's very conspiratorial, and the delicate may not want to read the comments.
All right. Thanks for the warning. Okay, Daisy, where can people follow you on social media?
I have the Organic Prepper page on Facebook. I have the Lost Art of Blogging on Facebook, or you can send me a friend request, Daisy Luther, on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter under Daisy Luther, Pinterest under Daisy Luther. I'm all over the place under my name.
All right, including Pinterest?
Pinterest and Instagram.
Fantastic.
My Instagram is lame, though. I really need to up my game.
Okay. Well, let's follow Daisy and see if she ups her game on Instagram. All right. And once again, everything that we've talked about today has links in the show notes, as well as to Daisy's social media profiles. So, Daisy, thank you so much for coming on the Blog Chronicles today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter @Matt Loomis, who is going to be featured on the next Blog Chronicles. He's a successful blogger and SEO expert who helps websites get ranked high in Google search results. And he knows a lot about WordPress too, so we'll be picking his brain on these topics in the next Blog Chronicles. I'll see you there.